You're invited to discover summer fun. Ride the waves in the wave pool. Jump off the diving boards. Take a dip in the Action River. And slide down the slides at our outdoor water park, Summit Waves. After a day in the sun, experience downtown Lee Summit. Enjoy gourmet pizza and delicious food for lunch. Then, cool down with handcrafted ice cream right around the corner. Summer at the Summit, Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of August 14th. The State of the City is scheduled for this Friday, August 18th at the Aspen Room at the Stanley. Mayor Bill Baird will present his 6th Day of the City address at a luncheon hosted by the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce. The event begins at 11 a.m. with the mayor's address scheduled to start at noon. The State of the City is open to the public. For those wishing to purchase lunch, tickets are $25. Find a link to register on the city's website. The State of the City address will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and available at cityofls.net. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Join District 1 Council members Mia Pryor and Hillary Shields for a town hall on August 30th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Receive an update on major projects and visit with department representatives. This town hall is a come-and-go event. Unable to attend, the meeting will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. And Pooch Paddle is coming up. Does your dog love to make a splash? Bring your four-legged friend to Summit Waves on August 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. Find more information at lsparks.net. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Have you ever been driving around Lee Summit and wondered what's that going to be? What's being built there? Wow, that went up fast. The Development Minute is here to help, highlighting some of the newest projects in Lee Summit, Missouri. The Lee Summit Transfer Facility, located at the Resource Recovery Park in South Lee Summit, is a Missouri Department of Natural Resources regulated facility, providing a location for contractors and developers to recycle debris. The facility, which offers equipment only found in 2 other facilities in the U.S., will break down recyclables like rebar, concrete, and more. Existing city services will continue at the Resource Recovery Park. Rain Tree Village, a senior living community, is being developed off of Highway 150 at Arbor Walk. The 3-phase project on 12 acres will offer independent and assisted living, short-term rehab, and long-term care for residents. The 150,000 square foot facility will have 126 residential units, 60 memory care units, and 80 to 100 staff members. It is set to open in 2024. New Longview is getting Apothecary Wines and Spirits. The wine, beer, and spirits store will offer local, classic, and rare vintages and libations. Opening date coming soon. Smoothie King is coming to 1440 Northeast Douglas Street, south of St. Luke's East Hospital. The smoothie company focuses on using whole fruits, vegetables, and healthy ingredients in all of its blends. The store is set to open on Tuesday, September 12th. Summer Moon Coffee is opening its first Missouri location in Lee Summit at Summit Fair Shopping Center on Saturday, August 12th. The coffee shop uses a wood-fire coffee roasting process that offers a different flavor profile than air roasting. The Lee Summit location features a drive-thru, online order ahead, and outdoor seating. That's it for the Development Minute. For more about upcoming projects, visit cityofls.net.
Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person, and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Lee Summit has you covered for all of your summer fun. Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Summer at the Summit, Lee Summit, Missouri.
It's member level. Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation, Ryan. Thank you. Is there any indicator that shows, are we supporting a need?
They talk about like gym rats, kids that grew up with their dads that were coaches. Like I was a city hall rat. My dad, Tom Lovell, was hired as the Parks Administrator in 1978 and spent 40 years in public service here in Lee Summit. I would go up on the weekends when he was working, and I'd run around and play and do things, and I didn't know what he was doing at the time, but I just knew that was part of our weekend routine some days, was to go up and hang out at City Hall. Being part of a city from a young age to now in my adult life, you reap so many benefits from that. The people you know, you care more for something that you've been a part of. My wife and I knew we wanted to raise a family. Just trying to find a community that we thought we could raise our children in, that was good to me. And it just felt like the right move as we were deciding on a city to come back to. Fortunate to have started a business in 2018. I founded Level Insurance Group, and we are a business insurance brokerage. So we help businesses procure insurance. Decided to throw our flag in the ground here in Lee Summit, and it's grown. I also have this passion for learning and curiosity, and I started a podcast series. So I really enjoy this opportunity where I sit down with business owners and tell their story, and get this out to other people in hopes that maybe it betters their life and gives them some inspiration. It's going to be a really exciting time, and obviously this city's in my blood. My dad's been a part of it for a long time, so I'm really excited. Thank you all. A lot of people would say I was crazy, right? So why do you throw your hand up and subject yourself to going into city politics? I think, especially as I've gotten older, I just felt, maybe a civic duty, like a responsibility to say, hey, this city's been great to me. Here's a way that I can give back and take some of my skills and put them to work for the people of this city. I wanted to bring a different, maybe way of thinking and take some of my business acumen and see areas that it may apply to how we develop and grow this community, and just give a different perspective. One of our biggest challenges, but also one of our biggest opportunities, is how do we develop and grow this community? We don't want to grow too fast, but we want to grow at a pace that helps support, who and what we are as a community. So, we've got a lot of opportunities, whether that be through development or parks. We've got a lot of land coming on board. So I just think it's important, it's a challenge, but it's also our greatest opportunity. And so we just got to be smart how we do that. It's just asking some different questions. I'm one that, I'm not contrarian for contrarian's sake. What I am is someone will tell me something, and then I want to get to that position with them by just asking thoughtful questions along the way. And then if I can get there, then I feel like we've answered everything we can to move that forward, versus, hey, here's kind of how we've done it. I'm never this is how we do it, this is how we've always done it, and this is how we'll continue to do it. Office of Council Member for District 2. All of my practical experience has put me in this position to serve, and I just raised my hand and said I want to do that, for which I was elected on April 5th, 2022. I feel this obligation to carry this legacy that my dad did, my family did, and then giving my kids an environment to grow up in that makes them want to come back. My kids have started rec sports through the Parks and Recreation system, and I'm watching them play soccer on this sport field that my dad helped develop, and my dad's sitting there with me, right? I mean, that's the stuff that really matters in life.
Development Committee to order, please. Can I have a roll call, please, Crystal?
Chair Edson?
Oh, here.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Here.
Councilmember Hodges?
Here.
Councilmember Felker?
Here.
Planning Commissioner Arth?
All right, thank you. And could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Pryor and a second by Councilmember Felker to approve the agenda. Could I have roll call, please, Ms. Pryor?
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges?
Aye.
Councilmember Felker?
Aye.
Chair Edson?
Aye. Thank you. I don't see anyone from the public on. Crystal, we don't have any public comments, do we?
And we didn't receive any public comments in advance.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I think in the rush to get this done that I forgot to tell the planning commissioner that we were having this meeting. So she may not know. She doesn't have a vote on this committee. I'm sorry. It totally slipped my mind. So we will send her the notes afterwards. I totally blanked out. Yes.
Yeah, I believe the city clerk included her on the invitation.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I don't feel so bad. All right. Moving on to the next order of business, bill number 23-159, an ordinance approving the bylaws for the Lee Summit Visitors Bureau, a Missouri nonprofit 501c6 corporation in Lee Summit, Missouri. All right. So we have the red line version of the bylaws. Councilmember Felker, I know everybody, I think everybody's got a few questions. Councilmember Felker, why don't we just start, if it's okay with everybody else, down at Article 2, because I feel like the first couple changes are more wordsmithing a little bit. So let's go down and really focus on substance, changes with substance, I guess.
Yeah.
Words are escaping me today. So do you want to start with the mayor's appointments?
That's fine. Let me, and do you guys see my comment? Or, there's the red lines, but then there's comments on the side.
Yeah. Can you share your screen? Do you want to share your screen?
Mine?
Yeah, or Crystal, one of you two? Just so we're all on the same page?
Yeah, give me a second, because I was working from two different versions here.
No. We only get to work for one version.
Well, meaning I have my Word version here on one screen, and I have the PDF that shows that there, Crystal's got it.
I have to turn the comments back on. I just have the. Okay.
Yeah, that way we can all see the same thing. We're all working off the same thing.
Right, there we go. Awesome. Okay. Well, so first, before I make any comments, I just want to also say thank you to staff, Crystal, and anyone else who's helped you, Dave, for being on this call. I know that I wish I would have been better. I couldn't put my head around a lot of things the last time we did this, and just it came together later. So thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody on the committee, for kind of working through some of these changes. But I think they're good ones for us to flesh out, really kind of hammer through to make sure that we know where we're at on it, and hopefully make it a little clearer when it gets to council, so that we don't have to, if we make changes at council level, maybe it's hopefully minor, if at all. So my first comment here really is just there's a use of words in the appointment of the board of directors where we say they're appointed by the mayor, and then later we have language that I'm looking at below under paragraph 2, where it talks about representatives being nominated. The term nomination is used on the part of the mayor, the 6 individuals, and then there's also the other 3 from our community partners and 3 from the city staff that are also nominated. The language here says not nominated by the mayor, but says nominated by the EDC or whatever, EDO, chamber, downtown, and then by the city manager. So I just wanted to surface this question. I don't know if the group, as they put it together, were thinking that the mayor has, I guess, in a sense, the authority to appoint all 12, or are we stating that downtown, EDO, chamber, and the city actually, have, if you will, unilateral authority to appoint their 6, then the mayor's is under the mayor's authority to appoint with council approval. So, and I guess then the same question goes to those other 6. Does council approve the other 6 as well? So I've got a couple questions going on with my comment. So I think I'm asking, what was the intent of the working group? And then if we know what that intent was, well, let's see if we agree with it. And then obviously try to make sure our language is consistent with what we want to actually be the case.
Yeah, Crystal, I think that's a direct question to you.
Yeah. So the original recommendation in the study was that each kind of group would appoint their own people. And the working group thought, based on kind of some of the experiences with the city and other community partners and the challenges we had, that they still wanted to honor that they would get to pick their own representative, but they wanted it all to go before the council so that it was all public and transparent and could be discussed. So that is why instead of just having the mayor and council appoint and confirm their 6, the the mayor appoints the whole board and the council confirms the whole board. Now, the sticky wicket part of that, I'm going to stop using wickets now that we're going to build wickets outside because it's going to get, it's going to take on a whole new meeting for us. But the sticky part of that is that it could be debatable, and I'm sure there are some attorneys who would enjoy to pick a side of the argument and debate it if this ever were a problem. But it could be debated whether or not that gives the mayor and council the ability to appoint someone other than who the outside agencies nominated. When we were going through and trying to make both of these things happen, the best way they could figure out to make that language work was to say nominated, and then to put in the Article 2, Section 2, where it says the board of directors consists from, to leave the word nominated there. So it was clear that the mayor and council get to appoint them, but the only people that can be appointed from those other agencies are the ones nominated by those other agencies. I am hoping that in practice, if the mayor or council ever has an issue with the person that another board nominates to represent them, that would be handled through our relationships, through our meetings and our discussions, and not something that would be just a play in front of the public at a meeting. So we've never had issues like that. So I'm hoping we continue to be that way. But does that make any sense? That's a very long explanation. So they wanted to be able to nominate their own representatives, as was recommended by the study, but also be able to give the council that higher recognition, that higher elevation. Now, the other thing they did was put in the bylaws that council can remove any member for any reason.
Right.
So they sort of made sure we were covered on all the ends.
Okay.
Okay. Andrew, before you move on from this point, well, do you have any comments about this point?
I just think we didn't really clearly discuss this, and is this what we want as a committee? I know that obviously the working group sounds like that's Crystal's relating what the working group worked toward. And I mean, the way I would read it is if they're nominated by the group and then the mayor and council approve or mayor appoints and we confirm, then obviously we do have veto authority over anyone who's appointed to the board. So,
well, and just there has always been my limited experience has been, yes, council has advice and consent, sort of, but not really. So I want to make sure we get this right. You know,
Chairman,
I mean, we can vote. Yeah.
Sorry, if it helps, the original way it was recommended is just like how when we appoint members to, I don't know, the Little Blue Valley Sewer District or other agencies that we're a part of that serve us. So we only get to control the people we appoint, whereas this is a little different. You get to see everybody who's nominated and have ability to comment on that. They were just trying to give a little bit more public light to who's appointed and a little bit more review and discussion.
So what if one of these groups nominates somebody who, and I'm not talking about this mayor, could be the next mayor or whoever, somebody who is at war with the leadership of the city. And then does that mayor have the power to say, no, absolutely not?
So that could be argued by the language either way, and it depends on which attorney you ask. The intent, no. The hope is that there are two options to fix that. One, the mayor and council have conversations with that board because we are relations, we are partners, we should be having regular conversations. The other option is if you don't like it, you just remove them because you have that power. And that way it's transparent, it's open. You know, if we can't solve it like gentlemen, then we'll solve it the hard way, which is remove them.
Would some of these be solved if we say, use the word suggest instead of nominated?
I think it would solve it from a council perspective, but you have to remember the study was based on a lot of research from what the community wanted, what those partners wanted, and how important it was to have some independence from the council. So we tried to find that balance. In this version of the bylaws, they actually give more power to the council than what the study suggested.
And that's actually, that's what I was highlighting is I think there's no question. I think that and I'm not, this is, again, I think like our chair just said, this isn't something against our current mayor nor against any future mayor, but I think this puts full authority in the mayor's hands to appoint. We have the chance to consent to that or not. That's how they operate. Because if nomination just means you're putting the name up, so then the name is up, then the mayor appoints, and then we confirm. I think that's the order.
That's correct.
So I don't think there's really a question. I think we just want to, I think it's our place to say, do we want to give downtown, EDO, whatever it will be, do we want to give chamber the authority to appoint someone to the board outside of mayor appointment? Clearly we can also keep the other language that says council can remove. So, I don't know, there's different ways this could play out.
I will tell you, those representatives that were representing those groups, they were totally comfortable with the mayor and council having the power to review and approve. That was their way. We're committed to be partners, and we don't anticipate appointing someone that's really gonna, raise your hackles or give you concern about our commitment to this. And trust me, if we get to this being a problem, this board has bigger issues and isn't performing anyway. So.
Well, but I think then that's true. And Chair, if I could continue, but what if we have a duly elected mayor who goes off who's off on a hinge somewhere, who could just put to stop anything. In fact, he could or she could choose not to appoint an opening if there is one on the part of downtown because they have a beef with that group, just as an example. So maybe we're okay with it. And I don't see really any major issues. I think we retain a lot of control if we have the power to remove somebody. I think that it's also out of respect to those boards, meaning downtown, chamber, and EDO, giving them the opportunity to have a voice that they feel strongly about, I think is because boards aren't always supposed to just get along either. That's I think an important point. Now, I'm not saying let's create, light a match and strike it and let's light a stick of dynamite. That's not what I'm advocating. I think I don't advocate for that. But I do think we realize that there may be differing opinions, and healthy discussion and debate actually comes from differences rather than just, lockstep continuity. So I'm inclined to say that these groups should have, if we look at them as partners, then we should grant them the authority to put one person who, between the three of them, they don't have majority control anyway, but grant them the authority to appoint who that is. Sure, they still will have to be a good player and be a part of it because we could retain the provision later that says the council can remove them. I guess that's maybe the position I'm coming from. And it gives kind of a balanced approach. Predominantly, this is something driven by the city because mayor appoints with council approval. We have 3 other members appointed by city manager who's hired by council. So clearly this is still largely in the control of city council. But then I think giving them, I think it's respectful to give them the authority to appoint whomever they wish to the board. I guess that's my input, Chair, on these provisions.
All right, Councilmember Hodges or Pryor, do you all have anything to add?
Not necessarily to this, but I do have a couple other questions.
Okay, well, wait till we get there, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. If nothing else, we will move on. Anything else, Councilmember or Councilmember Felker on this?
No, other than just, I guess, we can kind of work through and maybe go back and decide yes or no on those Because I guess what my question would entail a change in language if we decide to give those, we could say something more like, the directors are actually appointed. We'd have to change how the language is currently written. That's, I guess, my point. If we say right now that the 12 directors are nominated per that article, then we say appointed by the mayor. So,
right. So I see it as, and Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, the downtown, for example, nominates whoever their person is, gives that information to the mayor, who then makes it an official appointment, and it goes before us.
That's the way it's currently written. I do have a version that was written just based on the study recommendations that is written, I think, to what Councilmember Felker is pointing to. And it says something, basically it says these 6 are appointed and by the mayor and confirmed by the council. This one is appointed by Downtown Lee Summit Main Street Board. This one is appointed by the recognized EDO of the city's board. And this one is appointed, and so on and so on. So
yeah, I'm not going to agree with you on that one, Councilmember Felker. So you can make a motion, or we can do a straw poll with Councilmember Pryor and Hodges on that change.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it's a point. This is a point I feel like we need to know. I mean, we may be divided as a committee, and that's fine. I think it's something that should be, if we don't have a unified approach, certainly, council will need to kind of work through this issue. I think it's worth it to talk through. So,
okay, well, while we're here, let's do it. Okay, Councilmember Pryor and Hodges. If I'm reading Councilmember Felker right, Councilmember Felker wants the downtown EDO and chamber representatives to be nominated and basically they're appointed to that board. And they don't have to you still have to get approval, right?
No, I think they would be appointed, but they would still be subject to council with removal. That's the retention of authority, I guess. If we want to say council still has some ultimate weight to pull, given some of our history that we're kind of dealing with other organizations. So it still gives us the authority to say, look, there's a bad actor on this board and we want to pull them out, and we can do it via a council ordinance.
Okay. And what I'm saying, ladies, is they give their nominations to the mayor, and then the mayor decides whether or not to appoint them. So what are your all thoughts, Councilmember Pryor and Hodges?
So I think I'm more inclined to agree with you because I'm thinking this through. I know that we have the power to get rid of somebody who's maybe going rogue, but I feel like if we have that power, then we may as well have the power to approve them in the first place. I feel like it would maybe take away some of the tension there, I guess, to where if we're all in agreement that they're even on the board in the first place, then hopefully we won't have those issues to have the discussion of getting rid of the person. I don't know, because I feel like I don't know. I see both sides, but I feel like I'd rather let's just all be in agreement to begin with and start off on a clean slate in that aspect, because I think earlier, I can't remember who said it, but if they're appointing somebody who kind of has a little bit of tension, like we said, maybe with this mayor or the next mayor, whatever, we're going to be off to a rough start. And I don't know, I feel like we'd rather nip it in the bud to begin with than like, well, let's see how it goes, but we can always get rid of them. I don't know. To me, I'd rather just hash it out in the beginning, and then hopefully we don't have those issues because we've hashed it out beforehand.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pryor, your thoughts?
So I guess I'm more inclined to agree with Andrew or Councilmember Felker on this one, only because I feel like So I'm trying, I don't know exactly how to say this, but okay, so say council is kind of cliquey, that could put people in council in a weird spot, approving someone or not approving someone, based on who their friend group is. And I think it's best to kind of maybe avoid situations like that if we can. And then if they're not performing well, then of course address it at that point. But so I guess I'd maybe be more inclined to agree with Andrew on this.
Okay. Well, how about if we leave the language as it's written in the red line at this point, and then we will bring it up for discussion at council.
Fine. Sure.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I really think those are good questions, because even the nominated discussion, the nominated language needs some clarification. What does nominated mean? So I think that'll be a good item for discussion. So we'll just leave this as it is and clarify then. Okay. Okay. I'm going on to, unless anybody has anything before this, on page 2, Andrew asked if executive session met closed. That's what
I assume that's what it means.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
it
get.
would be the not-for-profit equivalent to what we call a closed session. Since they're not fully a public agency, it's not technically a closed session. So they're typically called executive sessions, just a different term for the same kind of thing. Things they can talk about without an audience.
And okay, and the next change was down at G4, duly authorized in writing. I think we need clarification on that. Looks like.
I'm thinking that what that just means is it's all been done by ordinance or something, and that's the duly authorized in writing. But I wonder if that language is even. I guess what we're talking about here is how do you obtain a majority to actually hold a meeting, right? You have to have the quorum to hold the meeting. And so I guess if you had people alleging to be directors but really weren't in writing, that this keeps them out. I don't know, but
I can answer what it means. So
Okay.
That language was in there when we had it originally drafted to match the study where each group made direct appointments to the board. And some organizations in the past haven't been great about having written resolutions or written minutes. So this was to show that that organization, I'll just pick on one. We're gonna pick on the chamber since I just talked to Matt last. So let's say the chamber board, appointed a new person, but they hadn't taken minutes for their meeting or they didn't send a letter. This just says we need something official in writing that says this is your board rep. You can't just call and tell us.
Right.
Someone can't just show up and say, I was at the meeting. That's all it was for.
yeah, I like it. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. And Councilmember Pryor and Hodges, I'm just going through the red line. So if at any point you go, hey, I have a question here, please just wave at me. Okay. Okay. On the next page, we have removal of directors.
Yep. So this was just, again, making sure we surfaced the question, which I think we've already kind of surfaced. So I don't know that unless there's more comments, I think we've already kind of I think the sentiment that I shared was I'm okay with retaining that authority. I guess, and the reason I'm actually a little mixed in my feelings on this. One is, well, I think as a council, we are reacting to some prior experience that took a long time of working with a community partner that failed to really participate with us and others in community in a way that was perhaps as helpful or as cooperative as we'd hoped. And so I think we are, as a council, kind of taking this approach of, well, we need to be able to kind of pull in, rein in as we need to. And so that's, I think, why this is here. I think if we didn't have that history, we probably wouldn't be as inclined to. And if we were setting this up for the first time, I don't think we'd have this provision in here. And we'd probably let those other groups nominate on their own if we didn't have, again, the history we do. So I'm just kind of bringing that to light. I think I'm okay with this as it is. It does seem, and part of me also wants to both be a solid participant, but not be too heavy-handed. And that's what I'm trying to avoid is, these are great community partners. Yes, there are some major missteps, and we're trying to move things in a different direction. But I also think there are also members of our community who are probably volunteering or working for a passion they feel for the organization they're with, and I want to respect the fact that they're doing that as well. So I think I'll be okay with changing this. I'll be okay with keeping this provision, especially if our ultimate resolution of the earlier provision is one that I like. But anyway, that's what I have on that.
No,
Sure.
I think those are all accurate and appreciated comments. Hodges and Pryor, are you guys okay? You guys okay so far?
Yeah, and I do completely agree with Councilmember Felker. I don't want to be super micromanaging, but I completely understand the point he brought up. So yeah, I mean, I'm good with whatever too.
Okay. Yeah, and you notice there was, I think we hit it on the other meeting. There's language in there about removing a board member if they're not participating, which goes along with the rules that we have set up for the other commissions. Okay, section 11, other ex officio board members. A city council member as selected by the city of Lee Summit may serve as a non-voting liaison to the board. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I just didn't know if we needed to more. I don't remember the ordinances that govern our other commissions, et cetera. Do we state council member liaisons are appointed by the pro tem? Are we specific on that, or as selected by the city of Lee Summit? Well, is that the council? Is that? I mean, I just think we need to be clear, maybe a little clearer here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
The reason we didn't specify is that the council could at any time change that process in the future. We could have a charter change, you can have a rules change. And so we didn't want to have a document that was inconsistent, even though there's always a phrase that says everything inconsistent without, but since those are technically processes sometimes and not necessarily, we haven't been great in the past of putting those in ordinances all the time. We just wanted to leave it as general as possible. I mean, we can just take out as selected by the city of Lee Summit, because the only way a council member gets appointed still has to go through whatever appointment process exists. So just take the city of Lee Summit. You're just making nobody else gets to pick the council member. It's not like the board gets to pick them.
This is citywide vote, maybe, actually,
Yeah, I think taking out the selection by city of Lee Summit is a good idea. Yeah.
Popular democracy at its best.
Come and vote on the non-voting liaisons. That'll draw a lot of attention. Okay, yeah, let's take that out. Okay.
I guess the only other, I don't know that I have strong feeling on this, but I know that another council member has just mentioned strong feelings about making sure there's always council representation. I mean, we have one liaison appointed. I think we've already had a discussion in this group that we don't want a council member to be voting, right? Because then that kind of conflicts them out of perhaps future agreements that we have to enter into, right? We really shouldn't have a voting council member. Anyway, maybe we'll discuss that at this point in a bigger council meeting. I know there's been some thoughts expressed that maybe 2 council members should be ex officio board members, but I'm not sure how that works. I'd love to see if that mechanically would work, or how, or even if it's feasible. We don't do more than one liaison on any other board. So anyway, I'm just going to throw that out and kind of leave it there.
Well, and just to add to this, and I know we talked about it a little bit, I mean, I'm fine with 1 or 2, because we've got the mayor and the city manager are represented on the EDC board. They're ex officio on the chamber board. We don't have anybody on downtown. I don't know. I could do, this is a big board.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
You do have a council liaison to the Downtown Lee Summit Main Street Board.
Oh, yeah. But is it, we do have a liaison. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So
you serve as an ex officio member of the board.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But they only vote, do they vote, does the mayor vote on, he votes on EDC, doesn't he? Yeah, yeah.
He votes on the executive. It's very weird, the EDC one.
Yeah.
Is weird.
Yeah. Councilmember Hodges or Pryor, you have any thoughts? Did I lose him?
I was yelling at my kids about putting too much ice in a cup. So I actually didn't just hear what you said.
Okay. We're looking at whether it should be one liaison on the board or two.
I guess I'd be inclined to maybe do two. I think, I don't know. I don't know, maybe two, only because it's a very large board and the communication factor might be easier with two on there, but maybe not two having to attend every meeting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe two.
Well, if they're non-voting, it's, yeah, their attendance.
To come back and communicate with the rest of council, like what's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty neutral on, I don't really care on that, whatever.
Okay. Well, unless Councilmember Hodges expresses.
Yeah, I either way, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards two, but I don't know if I necessarily have a good justification for it other than just the size and kind of like what Councilmember Pryor was saying, just to stay in the know with what's happening more on our level and making sure that we're represented. So I would be fine either way, as long as we are some sort of representation. So
well, and that's the rub, I guess, is if we appoint two, then the council expects the two to attend. So that it depends on how many meetings everybody wants to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. I don't think there are any strong opinions, so let's leave it as it is for now. And if anybody changes their mind at council meeting, we'll revisit it.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I'll share some background that helps. They did talk about, because we looked at some examples that had different numbers of ex officios and liaisons. And one of the reasons for just the one was to help with consistency. We've had experience in the past, not with this council, but previous councils. When you had two, it was often very inconsistent about who showed up or if anyone showed up because of miscommunication. And this board is likely to meet 4 to 6 times in the first 2 months. That's a pretty big difference. So they wanted to make sure whoever that was their council liaison was consistent and available, and so that when they're asking questions and communicating, it's clear and you're not getting differing answers because somebody wasn't there the previous month and you have to catch them up. And so they want someone who's willing to jump in and elbows up with them. So that gets harder.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's go down to designation of officers. And I noticed Councilmember Felker separated treasurer and secretary into 2 positions. And with a board this size and an organization this size, I think that's probably a good idea.
Is there a reason, Chair, may I speak?
Yeah, sure.
And Crystal, really a question for you. Was there a reason for putting them together, or was it just kind of done as a matter of course?
Yeah, the reason for putting them together was sort of twofold. One, they're mainly oversight secretary and treasurers. The actual bookkeeping and record keeping work will likely be done by staff and then overseen and signed off by those folks. The second reason, or there's actually 2 other reasons. The second reason, one is it's another meeting that a volunteer has to attend. And so if we had two, that was two other people we had to get to attend an additional meeting. And the third reason was by adding an extra officer, that makes that executive committee bigger. And if we did have a period in time where we were short appointments on the board, we could run the risk of having a quorum of the board when the executive committee met. So they're not, I don't think anyone's going to mind if we split them out. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It also gives us the power to squish them together. If you can't find two people to say they want to do it, one person can volunteer to do both. I don't think it's a big challenge at all.
And Crystal, or whoever's screen this is, could you scroll down to that section?
Yeah. The only challenge with the language was this sentence that says the secretary shall attend all sessions of the board. It's going to be nearly impossible to have anybody on any committee that attends all sessions. It does say that they are responsible for ensuring a complete record, whether they're there in person or not. But if you want to make it clear that someone was designated, we could probably put the secretary or designee. And then the board can come up with a process of how they want to designate that person, whether it's the chair does it or the secretary does it ahead of time. So whatever makes the council comfortable.
Okay, everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want to have one person on the board who's required to attend every single meeting. According to the bylaws, you have got to be here or everything falls apart. And what about past chairperson? Oh, that's just, it looks like that's just clarifying some language.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
I think so. I think I clarified it. I hope I did.
Well, you're an attorney, so there's a lot of questions about that. Okay, and I'm at the end of Andrew's unless it stopped printing.
Nope, that's all of the changes of any substance. The rest were just little,
Okay. All right.
things.
Councilmember Pryor, what did you want to talk about?
Okay, so I just have some questions just for clarification, just because I wasn't, I didn't see it in any of this. Where will the funding come from?
So this is just an operational governance agreement. This has nothing to do with funding. This just says who they are and how they work. Funding will come separate. So like we talked last meeting, once the board is appointed, they'll be working with the consultant, John Wisenant, to work on kind of 4 big things: a tourism plan that sort of says what are our tourism assets and opportunities and what do we want to focus on. A strategic plan for the board about what their role is going to be in that tourism plan, what their kind of implementation strategies are, and a resourcing plan, for lack of a better word. So that talks about current staffing needs, future staffing needs, space needs, and resource needs. They will take all those things and put together a funding request. We do anticipate that a funding request will be presented to the city council for use of business and industry tax funds. A DMO is has the highest nexus to those funds because of things they do, then build the revenues that grow that fund. They'll also be applying for, likely, because they're going to work on a funding strategy in their strategic plan. They'll be looking at private grants that they're eligible for. That's another reason for not making a council member a voting member, so that we try as hard as we can. Though David's on here, he'll tell us we're going to be a component unit for a while if we're the major funding source, but to help us over time separate so that we're eligible for other grants that government agencies aren't eligible for. And then maybe someday, if we do a really great job, and which I think we will, because for Lee Summit, I think we'll do a great job. We might be able to in the future become the designated DMO for whatever region, the greater Lee Summit region, and then we receive state funding directly.
Okay. In the meantime, so I've heard, have you guys discussed like bed tax or anything like that? Is that what you guys have discussed? I know that this isn't a thing for funding, but I was just wondering, I was just curious. And then, again, I don't know if you guys have decided, but where would this be housed until it has like its own? Is it going to be in City Hall potentially, or?
So the future physical needs, so space needs, people needs, and funding needs, the board will all work on that as part of that resourcing plan and their strategic plan. So they're going to explore all kinds of options based on what has been successful in other DMOs and then what might work for our community. So it could be temporarily housed in City Hall. It could be temporarily housed in some other facility. Yeah, there's lots of different options. So.
And then my last question, and this is, and I know you said that you guys are going to discuss this, but I just feel like other than downtown, what does Lee Summit really at this point in time? We don't have a lot to offer as far as tourism goes. Like there's not a lot to draw a lot of people in here at this point. There's some, I mean,
you got legs.
Downtown, but I don't.
How long do I have to answer this question? Because I could spend an hour telling you all of our tourism assets, but I'll give you a good example. So something we don't think about. We have incredible hospitals here. We have one of the largest medical hubs, not just in the region, but in the greater multi-state region here in Lee Summit, just the number of primary care and specialty physicians. Medical tourism is a major tourism industry. So that's people who come here for surgeries, procedures, both locally, just from independents, and people that come from rural areas, out of state, out of region to see certain doctors. That actually is a major tourism component. So we have lots of things like that we just don't think about. Typically, you think about things like, you know, worlds of fun and stuff like that. So we have a lot of assets to offer. That's going to be part of that tourism.
I know St. Luke's East and Lee Summit Medical Center do a lot of transfers out. So I mean, there's that. But so I don't know that we do have some good doctor's offices, and I'm not discrediting our hospitals. They're fantastic, but they do a lot of transfers out. Okay, I guess, and it's fine. I'm hoping that this isn't a little premature. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've told several people, Lee Summit, I mean, Overland Park, they said they saw $850 million tourism dollars in 2022. And that's fantastic. And I hope that we eventually in Lee Summit get to the point where we can see some of those tourism dollars in our city. At this point, our city just doesn't have a ton to offer, bringing a lot of people in. And that's great. We're getting there. I'd like to see us get there a little faster. And we have a fantastic downtown, but I'm just wondering what all is gonna go. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a question I have. I guess it's still a question that I have, other than, I guess, medical potentially.
Remember the sector analysis information that was in the study they presented for the DMO feasibility? That sector analysis was one of the reasons that showed we need a DMO. Now the DMO will grow and expand to the capacity that we need. So it's going to be small at first, but we also have great retail tourism. I mean, think of the number of friends that you have that maybe live in Pleasant Hill or Greenwood or farther that come here for shopping. And friends of mine that come from Independence because they don't feel as safe going to destinations in Independence to shop. You know, things like that count as tourism. Even residential traffic can count as tourism. The good thing about the DMO is we'll finally have a community focus on building the revenue that's coming into the business and industry tax. Because without doing things to put money in that, all of the great things we've been funding out of that will not be possible for us in the future. You have to help those hotels get heads and beds, and have to help attract other hotels and other lodging that pay that back. So,
and I think it's very important to attract other quality hotels to the area. And I do think it's important to get ahead of the whole, I mean, I really hope those hotels in Discovery Park are open before the World Cup. And I do think it's important to maybe get ahead of that whole, all that traffic coming in. I just hope that we have a little more to offer by that point.
Well, and Councilmember Pryor, I was actually, one of my first jobs was I worked for this little chamber of commerce in a town of like 35 or 40,000 people. And they didn't have a visitor center. And the receptionist, people would call and go, "We want to come to your town." So the lady who answered the phone started putting information together, and she basically solely built their visitors bureau. And she eventually became the executive director of the visitors bureau they built. But nobody was coming until she saw an opportunity to put information together. She had handouts, you know, this was this was late 80s, and she started doing trolley tours and different things. So I think there's an opportunity for us this is getting in on the front end. So maybe by having this, we can start attracting marketing firms who want to bring festivals here, larger festivals, and bringing things here, and that'll bring the tourism too.
I think that this just even further highlights the extreme necessity that we have for a functioning EDC that's going to go out there and bring the businesses in here that we need to have in here as a city. And I think that through all of this entire process and through even questions I've gotten from other people, I think it just further highlights how important it is that we jump on that they get the EDC in place quickly or whatever. Yeah. But all right. Thank you.
Councilmember Hodges, you have any closing comments? School started and you're already worn out. All right. Councilmember Felker, are you good?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm good. No further discussion.
Okay. Crystal, I think when this is going to council on Tuesday.
Yep.
Do you need a motion for us to send this as amended to council, I assume?
Yes, ma'am. So you'll need to make a motion to amend and then pass that and then make a motion to forward to council as amended. Or recommend to council approval as amended.
Councilmember Felker.
Chair, I move that we forward the bylaws as amended to council for consideration and approval.
Second.
And that's bill number 23-159. Yes. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Real quick. So I think we as a committee are forwarding this along, knowing that we have one provision that has kind of two sides, and that will then kind of surface that question in front of with council to figure out what we want.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to that, but we'll do that. So Crystal, would you or make a note for you or whoever you want to appoint to, when we vote on this at council, maybe do like a quick summary of what the committee's done, the questions we raised and things we want council to discuss?
Yeah, and I can actually put that one section that you're not quite clear about whether you want to be direct appointed or appointed and confirmed by the council. I can put in the packet. So the red line version that we just accepted that has it still as an appointment by all the council takes out that selected by City of Lee Summit part, and the ex officio adds the designee part for the secretary will be what is in the packet to be adopted. I will put a cutout section as just FYI supplemental information that has that section changed to where the council nominates these folks and the boards nominate these or appoint these folks and the boards appoint these folks as an alternate. And that way, if you want to consider, it's easy just to plug it in and make a motion about it. So.
Okay.
I'll send that to Councilmember Felker if you're okay with that, Councilmember Felker, just to make sure it's worded like what you were envisioning.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So, we have a motion and a second. Julie, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Councilmember Felker.
Aye.
Chair Edson.
Aye. All right. Any roundtable? Okay, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time for this extra meeting this week. I really appreciate it. This is important and we want to get it right. We want everybody to be comfortable with it. So I appreciate everybody's input and time. So if there are no other comments, we are adjourned. Thank you.